It's good to see everybody, and I'll start by saying, I'm very proud of our staff. I'm very proud of our team, our players specifically. What they did today was, under the circumstances, was really pretty cool, and we're excited to get the win. First game of the season, obviously, first opportunity to be in Kinnick. We told the guys beforehand that, it's special anytime we get a chance to walk into the stadium, and they certainly took advantage of that, specifically, in the second half. And, in regards to the first half, we had some missed opportunities. We had some of what you would call, the norms in the first game, and, just some things that, I think we probably could have handled better a little bit. However, I think the second half is probably a better indicator as to what type of team we are. And, I'll give a lot of credit to Illinois State, specifically to what they do defensively. And Brock Spack knows who we are. He knows kind of our DNA from his time at Purdue. And, him as a head coach, him as a defensive coordinator, I wasn't surprised to see what unfolded there in the first half, and how they had a pretty good game plan. And then Tony Peterson and Travis Niekamp, the two coordinators, are both good coaches, are both veteran coaches, and they've seen a lot of football. So I think a lot of the first half was, just the norms in the first game, and we've got some new guys out there in different positions, and I think just what you saw was an example of that. But certainly a well-coached team out of Illinois State, and we wish them the best. They've got a good football team. Hopefully both of their quarterbacks stay healthy, and they'll give them a chance. The second half, as it related to the game, just from a messaging standpoint, the big deal was, just clean up our execution. Some things that shot us in the foot, there early on with some penalties and some things that ended up taking a little bit of momentum away from us. And anytime you take the momentum away from you really start, draining, a little bit of the confidence as well. And that took place there in the first half. But the second half, I think, is a better indicator of, kind of the team that we are, and, what we're capable of. And we've got a lot to clean up. We certainly do. But, I'll end before I take questions with just, how unbelievably proud I am of our team, our staff, the way our players responded in the second half. And, this isn't a normal day-to-day around here, obviously. And, our players handled it with unbelievable class to go in, at halftime up a score, but still in a one-possession game. The way that they responded was really pretty special to see. So with that, I'd open up for questions.
Start with Tom.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Seth, what was this whole process like for you when you found out that you were going to be in this position, and what did that post-game celebration mean to you?
Well, in terms of the process, it's there's still really your primary responsibilities, which still exist defensively, and I'm pretty fortunate because I've got a group of veteran, mature. The whole room, for that matter, is a not a well-oiled machine, but you can imagine what it's like to coach Jay Higgins right now and Nick Jackson. Sometimes they humble you with the amount of football that they have. So, but I didn't want this to become a distraction to them. So my day-to-day up until really maybe going into Thursday afternoon and Friday was what it has what it's always been, to include my time with Phil and what we were trying to do defensively. So, the process didn't change a whole lot until, probably Thursday afternoon. But, the celebration afterwards, I'm just, I'm happy for the guys. It was all about them, and it always has been. And the players win the games. Norm's told me that a long time ago. When I GA'd for him, it's not going to be about schemes. It's not going to be about strategy. At the end of the day, it's going to be about the players. And they certainly went out there and, they ended up winning the game for us in the second half. So the celebration was, a little bit of icing on the top, but, it's always fun after a game when you win.
Hey, Seth, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I just wanted to ask about Reese Vander. I don't know if you saw that coming today, the 2 touchdowns and however many catches.
I was just asked that by Gary on the radio, and no, not surprised. Not surprised. I mean, Reese, probably for the first 2 weeks of camp, was a freshman, and he was in a freshman role, and then I think our offensive guys started to see some things that he was doing that gave them the confidence that, let's put him in there and see how he swims with some of these other guys. And, so they put him in there, and there were plays that were made, plays very similar to the ones that you guys saw today. So not surprised. However, it is college football at its highest level. And, when you introduce somebody of that type of youth, you just really aren't sure what's gonna unfold. And, I think the story is even much better considering what happened in the first half. Because we were still trying to get our feet on the ground, from an offensive standpoint, and then he goes out there and makes some of those plays. The one where we were headed to the north side that he caught over the middle, those were impactful plays. So not surprised at all. However, just to do it in a college football environment, I think that says a lot about Reese.
Scott, then John.
Scott Dockerman, The Athletic. I wanted to ask you about, in the first half, it seemed like it was a missed block, a penalty, something just kept stopping drives on offense. What was kind of your message and Tim's message at halftime, and where do you think it got ironed out to where there seemed to be a real good flow on offense?
Yeah, I think, it was, what they do defensively is, they're finding ways to load the box defensively. And, I think our tempo, the one thing that's probably reflective in the second half is our tempo offensively picked up a little bit. We talked at halftime just about the urgency, and I'm thankful we had a long conversation about this as a staff the other day, and I'm sure it's noticeable to you guys, but we did defer, which is a little bit out of the norm, around here, but. We were fortunate to get that first drive offensively in the second half, and we were fortunate to move the ball there. And I think that kind of led to maybe some of what existed, in the first half that gave us some troubles. But if you do look at it, what you should see is a little bit more urgency and a little bit more tempo was reflective there. And our guys bought into it. It was one of those deals where you come in at halftime and you're in a 6-0 game and you've got the lead, but it's still one possession. Something's got to change. And our guys stuck to the plan, but we did emphasize just trying to move the ball down the field, get in and out of the huddle a little bit faster, and not allow a defense that really feasts on looking at a picture and dialing into it.
John.
Seth, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Going back to Reese's second touchdown, the one on the south end, didn't seem like that was a high percentage play usually, but somehow happened. And then with the turnovers, kind of what do you think led to kind of some of those more opportunities than you guys had last year?
Yeah, I think we've placed. I'll start, John, with the turnovers. We've placed a greater emphasis defensively on turnovers, and I'm not sure who it was I spoke with in the preseason where I think it might have been Mike. He had mentioned just in regards to our defense and Phil Parker's defense and what we've done statistically. The one statistic that was pretty glaring was as good as we were last year defensively, we were awful when it came to takeaways. Awful, and so we've placed a greater emphasis on that. We've actually talked to other folks in college football coaching staffs that have given us some ideas, and so we've tried to implement that stuff, and hopefully what you saw today was an indicator of that. And we actually had a takeaway taken away from us when Jay got called for holding. That could have been a momentum play, but to know that what it is that we're emphasizing is showing up on tape, and we get a chance to talk about that with our guys tomorrow. That'll be a big deal. And then going back to Reese's catch that he had in the south end zone, it just some things happen, and some guys are just that's the way they are. I mean, Desmond King, Cooper DeJean, you talk about guys that you've seen around here before that they make plays, and sometimes you're just sitting there wondering how the hell did that happen. But it's football, and those guys are, it's nice to see.
Seth, Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. Something that Kirk talks a lot about is playing complementary football. Could you maybe just touch on how close today was to the framework of kind of what you set out to do as a program?
Yeah, I think even though the two halves are noticeably different, I think what you find there is you find examples of complementary football in both halves. And the fact that, that we were able to overcome, some momentum changing penalties, some plays that were taken away from us, and yet still stay the course, offensively and defensively. And I know offensively it was a little bit of a struggle to get things going in the first half. But the fact that we were going out there defensively and trying to complement that with 3 and outs and giving them the opportunity, and I'll take full credit for the 4th and 2 that we tried going for on the plus side of the field. Like that was one of those deals where you got confidence in what you're doing defensively. They got the ball inside somewhere between the 40 and the 50, and I just felt like, hey, here's an opportunity where if we can get this, which we didn't get, but if we could get this, then maybe that would give us what we need offensively. But knowing that, whether it be our punter, whether it be our punt unit, whether it be what we had in the return game, even though some of those opportunities were taken away from us, certainly how we were playing defensively, like that was going to give us, that opportunity at that time to try to convert this 4th and 2 and see if we can get this thing, going. But, it didn't happen, but that's, and then the second half is a unbelievable example of complementary football. Just going out there, moving the ball down the field, changing field position, stopping them defensively, using your return game and your punt game to try to control the field position. I think both halves noticeably different, but both great examples of complementary football.
Got 4 more in queue. We'll start with David.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. I gotta go back to Reese Vander. I think Luke and Kate both said he's quiet, but he was unfazed by everything going on. This is a guy who entered summer ball with an injury, played quarterback last year in high school, small town Iowa, and for him to step up the way he did. What has kind of allowed him to be prepared for the moment? How did he kind of step up when you guys needed him to step up when the wide receiver room was down a couple people?
Yeah, I think, opportunity comes in a lot of different ways. And, I'd start with he's on a charter bus and not a yellow bus. So that's a big difference in kind of how he's probably viewing things. But we have had our share of injuries when it's come to, that position. And historically that happens during camp. Camp is it's grueling in a lot of ways. And those that are, putting a lot of miles on their tires. And, but from the second that he jumped in there, like he hasn't looked like, a 17 or 18-year-old. He hasn't looked like he just came to us on a yellow bus. Like it's been pretty obvious that, he can go out there, he can compete. We're fortunate that he, his frame, his size, like, it's not like we're looking at this 2 years down the road trying to build this body. And obviously he needs a lot of work when it comes to, his physical development, but there's already some that has taken place. And I credit that to the state of Iowa, to the football here in the state and the players that play in this state. Like they just, and he's tough-minded too. And, he certainly didn't flinch today, and we haven't seen any flinching out of him up to this point.
Dan.
Coach Dan Stacy, Sportscast Media. I was impressed by your kicking game today. You have a new punter, and he did really well. And of course, your field goal kicker Stevens did outstanding. I saw no flaws. You had to have been pretty happy with that.
Yeah, it was, our kicking game, and like Reese, and I say this, I'm going to talk about Reese while I'm talking about Reese. Like Reese Vander, and then Reese, our punter, like the concern there is just the unknown, major college football, 70,000 fans, Kinnick Stadium, the emotions that go into that. Drew certainly he's seen that during the course of his career. So I don't think any of us were too worried about Drew Stevens. But when it comes to Reese, and you think about it, you're 15 yards from where the ball's being snapped. You got to catch the ball. You got guys bearing down on you. Now we want you to put the ball in the air. And with the exception of the first one that fluttered off the right side of his foot, that didn't travel for the yardage that we would like. Outside of that, he did an exceptional job, and we certainly did a great job punting and covering in front of him. So I think our kicking game's in a good place. We've got some stuff to work on, but yeah, I'm glad at where we're at there.
Thank you.
Chad and Mike.
Chad License Code Des Moines Register. I know you're born in Kentucky, but you probably consider yourself an Iowan, having moved here at a young age, I'm
Correct.
guessing. Okay. So, and your dad's a head coach, a long-time head coach. Just to kind of reflect on the day and what you were feeling like, how special was it, I guess, just being an Iowan? Your father did this, you got this moment to do this for the Hawkeyes. Kind of, what are your emotions?
Yeah, I don't know, Chad, if that's really set in yet. You know, there was enough, you know, when you turn the page from, you know, what your primary responsibility is to, you know, what you certainly weren't, you know, expecting. You know, you don't really give a whole lot of thought to that. You know, I did grow up a coach's kid, so I watched my father do it for a long time. So, you know, there were thoughts, you know, but, you know, as soon as a thought, you know, comes along, you're sitting there at 8 o'clock, the team leaves at 8:15, you still don't have your tie tied. You know, little stuff like that just, you know, it'll completely distract you from, you know, from probably the cool shit that's, you know, that you should be thinking about when it comes to, you know, parents and, you know, your father. But, you know, I've spoken with him, and, you know, I think, you know, the rest of the evening, the rest of the afternoon will be spent with him and the rest of my family, and I'll get a chance to reflect on it then. But, you know, I knew that there was, you know, somewhat of a void, you know, that had never been experienced here, that needed to be filled in some way. And, you know, that was my primary focus, is just making sure that, you know, that our players were not distracted from anything that, you know, that they were planning on, you know, focusing on themselves. And I think our staff, you know, handled that in a remarkable way. I really do. Not surprised, but, you know, just something that none of us were expecting. But I appreciate you asking the question.
Last question, Mike.
Mike Alaskazet, have you or anybody on the staff been in contact with Kirk since the game ended? And if so, what were his thoughts?
It's a good question, Mike. I wish I could answer it for you. I'll elaborate on it. No, I don't believe so. I haven't checked my phone yet, and I don't even know if that's part of the rules. Like, we're living in a world where, you know, you just, you know, you're not real sure what, you know, what the rules are. So,
You think he'll be satisfied?
I think he'll be more than satisfied. Yes, I really do. I think, you know, I think we're all thankful the way the game played out. I really am. I think it provides us with a lot of teaching moments between the first half and the second half. That, you know, as much as everybody in the room and everybody in the stands would have loved for us to come out and just start mowing people down, and, you know, the scoreboard starts lighting up, I mean, that'd be a good story. But, you know, when it comes to your team, your players, you know, the next 11 games, the course of the season, like this gives us a great opportunity to coach some very, very important details when it comes to football, and some, you know, some lessons, you know, some teaching opportunities. So, you know, my answer to that is I think he's more than, you know, more than satisfied. And certainly knows we have a lot of work to do. Like, I think he'd stand up here just like I did and tell you the same thing. Like, we got a lot of work to do, but, and we got good kids, we got a great staff, we got a great head coach, and, you know, there's a lot of work to be done going into this next week. So, thank you all.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Seth.